This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism. I'm so happy that you're here with us today. I am so excited about this podcast. I've been so looking forward to this. I have a special guest, and this gentleman has been so patient with me. He's been trying to help me to understand how to do this, communicate through the computer versus the phone, and he has been so patient and helpful. I'm so appreciative because sometimes I'm a slow student, so I really appreciate it. But I've so been looking forward to this. My guest today is Harish Bikmal, and he is a co-founder of a company called Zen Aviv. And it is a social enterprise that recognizes and promotes the talent of people on the autism spectrum. So right there, Harish has my attention. So I just think that's fantastic. Harish, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Hello, Sonya, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, I've been looking forward to talking to you about what it is that you're doing. So describe a little bit exactly what it is that your company does.
Sure. In brief, Zen Aviv, as you said, is a social enterprise that promotes the talent, and more importantly, currently it is the artistic talent of people on the spectrum. Our goal is, we do this by recognizing and promoting their talent, and they earn a good part of the profits as income. About typically between 66 and 75% of the profits is what they earn. And we do this primarily to help improve the self-esteem of these individuals, because, by helping them earn their own income and provide the families a little bit of hope for a better future.
That's fantastic. And why and how did you get this started?
Sure. As you can imagine, I have some personal connection to Zen Aviv, right, and autism, obviously. My son, Himal, was diagnosed with severe autism at the age of 2. And he had severe immune issues and gut issues, etc. And importantly, we were told that he may need to be put in an institution by 5 or 6, by the time he's 5 or 6 years old. That left us very little hope, for his life and what it may be for us as a family together.
Right.
And as he started growing, my wife and I obviously were constantly worried, about his life, and more importantly, what will happen in a few years, right? So what couple of things we did was, my wife went back to school. She became a board-certified behavior analyst, and started homeschooling him, providing behavioral therapy at home. And fortunately, he still lives with us. We didn't need to put him in an institution. But at the same time, he has significant issues, right, for developmental issues. He's 17 now, but he is developmentally, he's an equivalent to a 6-year-old. Mm-hmm. And he's nonverbal. He uses some sign language, though. So we tried different things for him, right, like most parents. We tried basketball, we tried baseball, we tried even frisbee. Mm-hmm. But the rules, he wouldn't definitely not get the rules. While playing basketball, he would definitely shoot 9 out of 10, but would like to have the ball all the time. Right? So that was the problem. And when we tried swimming, he could not understand why one should keep their head above water, right? And had trouble, learning the skill. Right. So anyway, when he was at around 10 years old, and this is the time when he couldn't even hold a fork properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
An incident happened. I would say it's an unfortunate accident, so to speak. My wife paints for a hobby, and both my kids were running around her easel, and she dropped her brush on the carpet. And this guy picked it up, and he started dabbing on the canvas. I mean, typically he would, put it in the jar of brushes. So we asked him, "Do you want to paint?" I don't know. We didn't even know if he understood our question, but he nodded his head. And we started, we hired an art teacher and an art therapist and started to train him. And lo and behold, in a few months, he started picking up, and the teachers and the therapists were really, really nice. They really nurtured and, in fact, developed that. I wouldn't even call it talent, but at least his interest. When we started it, we started with him standing at the easel with holding a brush for 1 minute. That was the initial goal.
Mm-hmm.
From there, in a few months, he started painting. And, that gave us a glimmer of hope.
Yes.
And as he continued to paint, our medical bills kept going up and up because of his health issues and therapy bills, the home behavioral therapy, and no insurance coverage existed for autism then.
Mm-hmm.
So to pay some of those off, we wanted to hold a fundraiser, and he had about 50 pieces at the time. And when we announced it, over 100 people from the community and friends donated their art to his cause.
Wow.
We were just blown away. I mean, you can imagine, it deeply touched our hearts.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Right. And then on the day of the fundraiser, within the first couple of hours, we sold over 1,500 greeting cards. And in the 6 hours of the fundraisers, we sold about 130 paintings.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And this is where the idea of Zen Aviv came from. And my older son, Saket, and I were, kind of inspired to take this somewhere, because we felt, there is something here about the kids' art, and more importantly, about the people buying it.
Mm-hmm.
So can we take this and help my son? And more importantly, can we help take the talent of the people on the spectrum and take it out to the world? Right? And typically the families are very stressed out, because of the challenges they face almost on a daily basis. And hopefully, once these kids can start earning, that will help their, self-confidence, and also provide some hope for the family. And we saw a lot of improvement in my son, and that's how we started.
Right. So that's what got you started in it.
Yeah.
And you said something that's I think universal for parents with children on the spectrum, which is what's going to happen to them when we as parents are no longer here.
Absolutely. I mean, even to date, we feel a little,
Yeah.
And I hear that from almost all parents, as you rightly said.
Yes.
But what we are seeing, at least with my son and a few artists who are on Zen Aviv currently, is the parents feel that, okay, at least the kid has something to do during the daytime and hopefully earn some money. There's some hope now for the future. I feel that we never felt so hopeful in the past. We feel so much better now.
And that must have been an amazing moment when you realized that he not only had an interest, but then was able to develop his talent into, and I've seen some of his work, and it's really good.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, definitely. I mean, even today, we cannot believe some of the paintings he produces. I mean, that, to be very honest. And the most important thing for us is he loves doing it. Mm-hmm. And he continues to do it, and he loves doing it, right? And from a stage where he would just paint and walk away from the canvas. Now he paints and makes sure that he takes one of us to the canvas and he stands next to it and he wants a picture of him with his painting. So you can imagine he's not only painting, but also kind of owning up and also feels that he has accomplished something.
Yes, which as his dad, I imagine that's a really good feeling to see that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I could not trade that with anything in life. Right?
I bet. Yes. I understand. And so how long do you think it was from the time that, well, let me ask this first.
Sure.
That moment that he picked up the brush, so this accidental dropping of this brush and he picked it up, was it something that was apparent that there's something different here right away, or was it like the Frisbee or the basketball in the past that it was just one more thing that you as parents were offering to him to see what clicked?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when we started, it was just trying one more thing.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Period. I mean, we didn't have, I would say we hardly had any hopes about it because he couldn't even hold a fork or a pencil or anything.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't write at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, we found an art teacher who has a special needs child. Mm-hmm. And he really took my son under his wings and trained him hard. Right. And that made all the difference, I think, because he would really encourage him and motivate him like crazy. And, I think if anything, I should say thank him for everything that he has done and, sowed the seeds in him and started building that, developing a skill in him. Mm-hmm. And, thanks to him, we started, seeing some light in my son.
And is it something now that is Himal participates in every day?
No, he paints typically on the weekends.
Okay.
If given a chance, he might do it 3, 4, 5 days a week, probably. But we don't force him, and we try to streamline it in such a way that he has a predictable day and time that he can go paint. Mm-hmm. And we also don't want to overdo it in that, he'd never like to do it again.
Right.
So typically on Saturday and Sunday afternoons is when he paints. And he always needs his mother to be with him when he paints. So she has to be next to him when he's painting.
Okay.
And then it works out well.
Mm-hmm. And so, like I said earlier, he just produces some amazing artwork. And what have you seen? How is this showing up in other areas of his life? That this success, this self-esteem boost that he so deserves, how does that translate to other areas of his life?
I think it's a great question, Sonya. And I think it has permeated all his life. I mean, all his activities and things that he does in his life. Let me give you a few examples. Okay. Number one, if we ask him to learn something, he's very open to learning. Right? And in the past, there used to be so much of resistance.
Right.
Number two is he feels that when he does something, there is a reward beyond a physical reward like a candy or something, right? There is something beyond that. For example, we started teaching him piano a couple of years ago. And he has so far given about 11 or 12 recitals. Mm-hmm. And when we tell him he has to go to the stage, he just walks straight to the stage, does it, takes a bow and comes back. In the past, he wouldn't leave us, right? So you can see the level of confidence that has grown in him.
Right.
And when he sees his artwork at a business or at a show or something, that smile on his face is just invaluable. And, it's only not just invaluable for us, but more importantly, that shows the growth in his confidence, right? And he in our house, even though my wife paints, he says it's only his paintings that should be displayed on the walls. Right? I don't know if it's a child in him or what in him, but so what? In short, I would say it has permeated every aspect of his life, and more importantly, every one of our lives in the house.
Right.
Right. So each of us feel that he has something, from a severely autistic kid who needs to be an institution to a person who can hopefully spend days doing what he loves to do.
Right.
That's where that's the difference it has made to him.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And this gives so much hope to so many people. I think that a lot of times we as parents, when we hear the diagnosis for the first time, it comes along with a lot of a list of things that our child will never be able to do. And it can be gut-wrenching to hear those things. And then there have been so many times where the children that get the diagnosis move beyond those limitations. On this podcast before, we've talked about, how Josh was told he would never go to school. He would never have any friends. He would, he needs to be, he's never going to have a job. He's going to need to be in an institution. And, I'm like a lot of other parents out there, which, we just don't give up. We say, that might be the diagnosis, but there's got to be something. There's got to be something that can make a difference. And what you and your wife have done is given him all the opportunity to express himself in that thing. that thing can be different, because everybody's an individual. Whether they're on the spectrum or they're not, everybody is an individual. So, but it's just wonderful that you've helped to cultivate this for him so that it's permeated his whole life like that. Now, so that's one aspect of this. So you recognizing this in him, and then bringing on board an art teacher that would be able to meet him where he needed to be met, and then help him to move forward. When did you come up with the idea to open this up to other people on the spectrum?
So we had that idea on first when we thought about even how this could help, how art could help my son, him out, right? Just when we thought about it, the immediate thought was, especially from my older son, was, how about other kids?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And in fact, I remember this conversation returning in the car from the fundraiser, and we were discussing this, and he goes, "Daddy, don't you think other kids with autism can also paint?" I said, "I think so. We need to check this." And then he said, "Why?" And then I mentioned to him, maybe we should create something that will, on a constant, regular basis, help earn some income for my son. So that's when the older one said, "Daddy, why don't we create this as a platform to showcase the talent of people with autism in general?" Mm-hmm. But then it took a few years for us, with all sorts of travels and things like that we were going through. It took a few years, and we started a couple of years ago. But even though we started a couple of years ago, we have been active only in the last few months.
Okay.
And even in the last few months, we have seen some amazing feedback from the parents of autism and the parents of Zen Aviv artists. Like one mother told us recently, her son has been painting for several years, but now that art is being promoted through Zen Aviv and he sees his art going in multiple organizations, businesses, etc., and products, her comment was that he feels that his art is being valued now, and he feels as a valuable member of this society. Mm-hmm. And she says he's so much happier than he's been in the past 26 years. That's how she put it to us. I mean, and similar comments we have heard from a couple of other parents as well. And that as a parent, I don't think there's anything more gratifying than that.
Well, I agree with you completely. And as you're sharing that story, my eyes fill up with tears just hearing it, because those of us that have nurtured children on the spectrum, it's just something where sometimes it's a long road to get to a point of seeing your child expressing themselves and then being recognized for that, and then that feeling that you can just see in them, the ramifications of that experience, those feelings. It's life-changing.
Absolutely. And, you as you mentioned, it's a long path. And what I have noticed is, most importantly, is that it's generally the mothers who are the champions of these kids, who do everything. I mean, I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And just all I can say is thanks to these mothers like you. I mean, imagine what you have done, not only with Josh, but your podcast and other things help so many other people, right? Other families. And, I guess they're so correctly called as tiger moms in some ways, right? Mm-hmm. I can only say to the mothers that, along with everything that you do, try to look for that spark or that opportunity and nurture and develop some skills in their kids. It could make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's sometimes it feels like it's a never-ending search, but giving up feels like it's not an option to for myself and for the moms that I talk to, the majority of the moms that I talk to. Right. It's just not an option. And what you've done and what you're offering now is you found a way. Essentially what you've done is to take this talent, take the ability to paint, and follow that through to see that it fills him all up to such a degree that you then offer this to other kids and adults on the spectrum, and then they're having the same result. You're getting this feedback that they're having the same experience, that it's building them up as human beings.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes, and I just think that's the reason that moms don't give up, because you never know, right? You never know when you're going to find that thing, when something's going to click with them that's going to help to fill them up.
Absolutely, Sonya. I mean, you put it so well, right? And now if you were to take this concept or take this idea, and we can not only just do this change or bring this transformation in the artists on the spectrum, but what if other moms of other kids learn this, see this, and start working on their kids, towards, whatever is the talent or whatever is the passion of the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine what happens to these families from a constant state of stress, struggles. Now, the parents are focused on building the skill, and as the skill grows, the kid himself or herself, gets, I wouldn't call better, but you will see changes in almost every sphere of their life because of that one skill development or one or two skills development. And that permeates the whole family.
Mm-hmm. Right. It does. Yeah.
And now fast forward this to 10 years, so project it to 10 to 15 years. If you see that 10%, 15% of the kids with autism, I'm not talking of those small percentage of savant-like people.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And when you see this, the whole world will begin to see people on the spectrum in a very different way.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These people are now enriching the world with their talent.
Mm-hmm.
And the world begins to see, these people are not just kids with deficits or problems, but they have some inherent, inbuilt talent or inbuilt passion or inbuilt skill that can be nurtured. So we can even take this, that's where the whole vision is, right? From individual families to improving the lives of many, many families, to changing the way world perceives these people. That would be the day, that would be a dream.
Yes, because it feels like, I don't know how you feel about this, but there are times that I feel that our world seems so small sometimes, in that I always saw the wonders of Josh, and yet I would just get complaints about him back. And I just remember thinking, no, you don't see him. You don't see the wonders of Josh, which is just my way of saying there's so much more than autism here. And there's, and also somebody asked me one time, if I could magically make Josh not have autism, would I do that? And I said, well, in the first place, I don't know any different, but how do I know if Josh, is he who he is because of autism? The kindness. Because one thing that across the board, to me, in my experience, is that I can honestly say that the folks on the spectrum that I've met have a heart of gold. And it really is that there's a special quality. And so when somebody had asked me that in the first place, I don't know why somebody would ask me that in the first place. But Josh is who he is. And I wouldn't even know how to separate that out. So that's a very kind of a complex kind of, it's not simple at all. And what seems amazing to me is that there's these abilities, just such amazing talent, and like what you did for your son and what you're offering for other families is the help to find that talent and then cultivate it. And I just think that it's fantastic. So how does it work? What's the first step that you take? Do parents contact you?
Absolutely. It can be in two ways. They can either email me or they can go to the website and connect with us. It's very simple. What we would like to see, though, initially is they can send us a couple of paragraphs about their child and then maybe 4 to 6 pictures of their artwork. And what we do is our art curator looks at the art and see if it's a good fit for our customers is one thing. And the second thing is, are we a good fit for that artist? That, we have to be the right fit as well, because there are many artists out there who can do this themselves and, they wouldn't need our help. So we do that, and then we get back to the family very quickly within a day or two. And what we do is then we start promoting them. The way it works is very simple. We don't take their physical artwork. The physical artwork will be owned by the artists, and they own all the rights to the artwork.
Okay.
All we ask for is a permission to market the digital prints of their art. So we get images of the art, and then we produce high quality prints from it. And we also produce a few products like some uniquely designed calendars, greeting cards, mugs, totes, etc. And then we promote them mostly to corporations and also to individuals through the website. And what we do is at least 66% of the profits are earned by the artists on everything. For example, if there is a painting of an artist that's sold, 66% of the profit goes back to the artist. Now, that is their earning, obviously. And typically, currently it's been 75%, but we try to make sure it's at least 66%. And the rest of the money is put back into the company to make it self-sustaining. So far, we have been bootstrapping it. But the hope is that, as the volume increases, hopefully very soon, we can make it self-sustaining organization. And my son, and a couple of other friends, we all volunteer in it. I actually, right now, I'm volunteering full-time in it. I've taken off time from my job so that I can volunteer full-time and get it off the ground and running. So so we keep the costs to the bare minimum, right? Other than producing the prints. So that is how it works. Is there any other question I'm asking? Anything that comes from that answer?
Sure. Yes. Yes, absolutely. So you mentioned customers. Where has the artwork been showcased?
Great question. Thank you. So our artwork, our artist artwork has been showcased in several places, including customers in the US, Canada, UK, Australia, and India so far.
Wow.
And for example, in the US, the customers are Four Seasons Hotels, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, the Jefferson Hotel, which is another 5-star hotel in DC, a couple of other large organizations in North Carolina. So there have been a few larger corporations and a few smaller, mid to small corporations in the short span of time. And we are so thankful to them for that. And in fact, even me, places like Washington Post has also showcased their talent.
So do those places purchase the artwork and then they would hang it in their hallways, something like that?
That's right. What they do is the customers have been doing three categories, let me say. One, they purchase artwork and use it in their lobbies or hallways. For example, Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore and Maryland, basically, and there's another hospital as well. They have a large 10 by 12 feet in their lobby, piece in their lobby, and hallways. And the other thing that they also do, the second thing they do is they take smaller prints, either on canvas or on a fine art paper, and framed up in the offices of their executives. And as far as our products, they co-branded with us. We have the logo of Four Seasons, our logo of Washington Post, along with ours on the calendar. And they not only give it to their employees, but they give it to their customers as gifts during the end of the year, during the holidays, customers, prospects, etc. So those are the three big categories that we have seen. And the new trend has been, the clients have been asking us to paint murals in their offices, wall murals.
Yes, and that is really cool. So how many of those have been done?
So we have done it at 2 places, and we are starting work on a 3rd place this weekend. And we expect one more place next end of July, once we complete the one that we are working right now. So, and each place has been asking for 2, 3, 4, 5 murals, up to 6.
So that's awesome.
And that has brought a different kind of dynamic into the artists, right? These kids are not trained to paint on the wall. Mm-hmm. So once they started doing it, they enjoy it a lot more than just staying home and painting on canvas. Now they get to go out, paint in public, right? And get instant feedback. Imagine what that could do to their self-esteem.
Right.
So murals has been a very, very positive and a different kind of experience to the artist. Very positive.
That is awesome. That I would love to see that. I would love to see that. Please let me know when Himal is going to do the next mural. I would love to come up and see him do that for myself. That would just be wonderful. One of the things that you and I have talked about is that you moved from Florida to Virginia, and we are moving from Florida to Virginia. So that's pretty cool. I think, probably a few hours away. So once we're up there, please let me know when he's going to be doing that. I would love to come see him in action.
Absolutely will do, Sonya. That will be our pleasure as well as privilege.
I just think that's wonderful. Are you looking for help in any areas of support that you could get from anybody that might be listening to this podcast?
Sure. One of the things I would say is, I would say, again, 2 points here. One is to the parents in general. I very much believe, and it goes to a point that you mentioned, kind of alluded to earlier, as Temple Grandin says, autism is different, but not less.
Correct.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I also feel that it is like a bend in the road and not the end of the road. Mm-hmm. Right? And just like our son has taught us a lot, about his selfless love and the qualities that you mentioned earlier, and he has made our family so much better. Mm-hmm. So given that experience and what I'm experiencing with the other artists, I would definitely recommend and hope that other parents of kids with autism, keep dreaming for their children and be an amazing friend for them. Yes. And, hopefully they can find the passion, the spark, and nurture it. Basically recognize their potential, right? And build on it. Mm-hmm. And there is a hope for the future. And probably these parents will, from whatever stage they are, they will become proud of their children. Right? That is one thing. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, any of the parents, any of the listeners, if they can recommend this to their employers, right? Mm-hmm. And that would be a huge help. What we have seen is the employers also benefit in many, many ways. They not only support people with autism and give back to the community, but it goes beyond that. What our employers are seeing, or rather the employers who are buying our artists are seeing, is that people in their company are beginning to better understand autism and people with autism. Mm-hmm. Right? And they can now start hiring people on the spectrum as well, because the other employees support them. Mm-hmm. And there are so many other benefits that our customers are reporting, and it could help them. So I would truly appreciate if you could, if the parents who are on this, listening to the podcast, make that connection to their employers.
Yes, that's a fantastic recommendation, and I just think that the more people that share this, then the more options that the folks on the spectrum have. It's just going to grow and grow, and like your dream, to change the worldview, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yes. And something that you had said earlier to me, which I just thought was wonderful, right off the bat, which is that you wanted to empower the lives of those with autism and their families.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you wanted to empower them. And I think that's so needed right now. And when you mention the families can be empowered, I think that it's important to say that, like for you, what you've described is that not only did this help him all to feel better about himself, it just kind of, blossomed, helped him in so many ways, but this also helped your family. And so it doesn't just stop. There's so many families like your family and like my family, where we've, our in our case, our sons got this diagnosis, and then we go, now what?
Exactly.
And, we just kept trying to find that thing. Which, by the way, I am like him all when it comes to swimming. I think swimming underwater is so much more fun. So I'm right there with him on that one. But we would just keep trying to find that thing. And you are an example here for families that just because maybe that thing hasn't been found yet, not to give up and not to sink into despair. I feel like there's no answer or there's no hope, because every single person with autism has a talent. And it might not be painting, but it's there. And just like with you, continuing to offer your son opportunities to be fulfilled, and then in your case, an accident proved to be the answer. I just think that it's a fantastic message, because parents just feel so overwhelmed for such a long period of time. It just doesn't stop. And what you're offering for families that, if their child or their family member on the spectrum, has an affinity for drawing, to submit that to you and see where it takes them and see what it can do for them, because you don't know, that might be something that just fits.
Absolutely, Sonya, and you said it so well. And a couple of things I wanted to take it. I wanted to say a couple of words. One, you said all our kids. It is so true. And what I have noticed, at least in my little experience, is our kids in their area of talent they can do it so well, mm-hmm. and they love doing that, mm-hmm. right? And as you said, it need not be painting. It could be anything. It could be pottery. It could be singing. It could be anything. I mean, I know of a girl who is, I think right now 9 years old, and sings. When she sings, she can bring tears to your eyes. Mm-hmm. Amazing. And, talent like that is just not common with quote unquote typical people.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, and as you said, for over a period of time, the families are really hit by so many challenges that it becomes hard for them to see the light or see that hope or see that spark in their children, right? If they can take a little time away from that and start looking on the positive, hopefully looking to nurture some talent or some passions or some interests of the child,
mm-hmm.
I think, it will snowball into something.
Right.
Right. And then now if I may use the word, a negative loop, it could get into a positive loop and snowball into something that they can become so happy or proud of. Yeah.
Right. And it's just, it's the opposite of what a lot of individuals and their families have experienced thus far.
So true.
Yeah. So your son draws on the weekends for right now. Tell me, does he ask to draw?
Oh yeah, he does. It starts at least on Thursday evening or Friday evening itself. Mommy, Saturday, painting. Mommy, Saturday, painting. Right, a little bit of OCD there. And and come 1:00 right after lunch on Saturday, he literally will start pulling his mother to the basement where he has a small area where he paints.
Right. That's wonderful. Does he how does he do this? Does he stand up when he paints?
Yeah, we make sure that he stands up so that it kind of also works on at a physical level.
Mm-hmm.
So he does stand up and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally, if it's like a long thing, he's gone on for several hours.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, every 15 minutes, my wife gives him a break.
Okay.
Yeah, but sometimes some paintings they sit, or in fact, they put the canvas on the ground and floor and do it. Sometimes, but typically it is standing and we're painting on the easel.
So that's how he does this. I'm interested to know how many artists do you have that you showcase now?
So we have 14 artists that we are showcasing, including my son.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing I wanted to add, in addition to that, answering your question, was my son, he does not have the ability to imagine something and paint from his imagination.
Okay.
He typically sees a picture and does it. So obviously, we want him to develop the thinking and creative abilities in him.
Mm-hmm.
So our hope in the beginning was, okay, let him at least reproduce. Let's take it from here.
Sure.
So he right now has over 220 paintings.
Mm-hmm.
But after having done so many of his paintings, now we're beginning to see, literally after 8-9 years, some level of his own creativity coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And, let us say in the picture that he's looking at, there is a tree. Okay, he might put a tree there, but it will be very different from what is in the picture. In the beginning, it had to be the replica.
Mm-hmm.
Now, no. If there is a walking path, it will be different set of stones or something else. So the point I was trying to make is it may take time to build these skills and creativity in these kids, but one can build with a persistent and patient effort.
Right. That's I'm laughing about that because if there's one thing that I know, it's that transition, that ability to allow his creativity to take over rather than doing the rigid process of just what's there. I understand what that took. So I appreciate that. And, and full disclosure here, my drawing skills consist of stick people. That's it.
And I don't even try to draw that.
Yes, it's tough. I think it's really tough.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, so this expanded from that. That's how your son does this, and he's just growing creatively through this. And the other folks that contribute to art, are they local to you? Or are they all over the country?
So they're all over the country. I mean, currently from Rhode Island in the north to North Carolina,
mm-hmm.
and California, LA to Portland in the west, to DC in the east, Northern Virginia. Mm-hmm. And we have one artist from Jamaica and one from India who have recently joined.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's been from all over the place, not just local.
Wow. How does that feel?
I feel that it's just the beginning of a journey, mm-hmm. To hopefully realize the dream that I mentioned earlier. And, one man cannot do it, one company cannot do it. But I hope that, it will also spawn ideas in different people to create such enterprises which can capitalize on the talent. When I say capitalize, is basically use the talent of these individuals and encourage and build on more and more families. So yeah, it feels awesome to be, to simply put, but it's only the beginning of a long journey. And hopefully a very pleasant journey in terms of making the difference, transforming life.
I know that you're going with the flow there, but I just have to say that there are 13 families out there that you're so far have made this impact on, and the 14 individuals that are offering their art up in to participate in your vision. And I think that's worth acknowledging. And you've through this idea that you and your son talked about after coming home from an exhibit has now affected lives all over the world, like you just described. I would think that maybe you're too modest to say it out loud, but I will just say it for you. Excellent work, sir.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, it's the support, and more importantly, we are only taking what is the talent of our kids to the world.
Yes.
Right. So thank you. I appreciate that very much, Sonya.
Well, it's heartfelt. It is heartfelt. And you have, you and your wife, you have an older son, like that I just mentioned, Saket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I had read that an email that you sent saying that he's a freshman in college right now. And you wrote that he's pursuing computational neuroscience, and he's been researching the brain for a long time now, but in the areas of regenerative medicine and how toxic materials impact the brain. And so I'll just have you know that when I got that email, I spent the rest of my day researching what that meant. Because that was like a foreign language to me. So
to to a large extent, it is for us too. I mean, and he has actually, through his work, he has helped us better understand human brain. And go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that happens often with siblings, with someone on the spectrum. Our daughter sat on this panel, with a room full of people asking questions about what that was like as a sibling to someone on the spectrum. And I know that she's even said on this podcast before that she doesn't know any different. That's just what it has been for her. And she said she feels like she's a better person because of Josh. And I think that it when I read that after I finished looking up what the words meant, I realized that it sounds like in great part Sackett took his experience with Himal and did the same thing. It's trying to do better, trying to have a gain understanding, and trying to make a difference.
Oh, so true, Sonya. What it has taught, I've seen in my son here two things. The older one, Sackett, is he has learned to be empathetic to every human being or every other being on this earth. Mm-hmm. And we as parents, my wife and I, feel so proud of that. He's empathetic and understanding. And the second thing is, it has made him listen to people first, as opposed to just talk or comment on people. Mm-hmm. And when he tells the people, when he tells us, and that when we know that that's how he feels, is that he says Himal has taught him so much in life that, he wouldn't have learned even after 50 years of age. Mm-hmm. Right? Like the way you mentioned about how your daughter feels about Josh. Mm-hmm. So, my older one and my wife and I feel that Himal has given us, not only made us better human beings, but also given us a purpose in life. Mm-hmm. Right? Can we improve others' lives? My wife, being a board-certified behavior analyst, she volunteers with hundreds of kids around the world, and most of them in the US, advising parents on behavior analysis. And in fact, she became a certified art teacher to help my son as well. So she trains other kids on the spectrum.
Oh, your wife does?
Yeah. So, it was becoming very hard for us to find and keep art teachers. Every 3-4 months, there would be a new art teacher. Mm-hmm. That was, disturbing the rhythm, because every new teacher comes with a new style of work.
Yeah.
And that was completely, my son used to get frustrated and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So she, trained herself, became a certified art teacher. So she trains him, for the last couple of years, she's been training him in art. And she trains a few other kids as well locally.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So he's made us all better people and gave us a purpose in life. So I don't know if I can ask for anything more.
I understand and agree. Yes. One of the things that you said to me early on, I just think that encapsulates what you're all about and what Zen Aviv is about, and that is, you said that we dream of a day where families live in hope rather than despair, and nurture the strengths of their kids, and the general public looks past autism to see the talents of the individual. And I think that just is an amazing and powerful undertaking, and that's where you started, and that's what you've accomplished. They say that that you might not be able to change the world, but for one person you can change the world. And that's what you've done for the people that are participating already. And I just think that this is going to grow, and it's a wonderful opportunity for anybody that's interested. And I know that I asked you earlier how people can reach you, and that's fantastic. You have 2 different ways that they can do that. Could you just take a moment and let the listeners know what your website, the address of your, whether it's through email or website, let them know what that is exactly so they can get in contact with you.
Sure, Sonya. Thank you. Number one, they can email us directly by emailing at support@zenaviv.com. Zen Aviv is Z as in zebra, E as in Edward, N as in Nancy, A V as in Victor, I V as in Victor again, .com. So they can email us at support@zenaviv.com, or they can go to zenaviv.com website, and through the contact us or connect section, there's a form that they can just, name of the artist and a brief description, and they can send a note to us.
Okay. Fantastic. I'll also put that, if you don't mind, I'll put that on the podcast. It'll be on the website that people that subscribe to the website, it'll go out to them automatically. Through that, I post on some social media each week when we do the podcast. Mm-hmm. And I'll put both of those if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. Also, you have a wonderful YouTube video with you talking about what it is exactly that you do, sharing. It's very short, very informative, says what you're about. And if you don't mind, I'd love to put that up as well.
Please, absolutely. That would be a real pleasure. In fact, that video was produced by UPenn, University of Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And in fact, UPenn and MIT have both given fellowships and training to us. I mean, basically Zen Aviv staff to help build this. Wow. So they produced this video for us, on the basis of an interview that they did. And that would be great if you could do that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Hopefully that will motivate a few parents.
I hope so. I think this has the opportunity to make such a difference for so many individuals and their families. Before we go, I just want to say that I appreciate what you're doing so much. I enjoy our conversations. And I just am thrilled at the idea of coming up and seeing him all paint a mural.
That would be awesome.
I'm so excited about that. Is there anything that you'd like to share that we haven't talked about?
I think you've covered pretty much, but if anything, I would like to reiterate to the parents, to find that spark in their kids and nurture it. And there is a great possibility that they'll be pleasantly surprised. I'd like to just reiterate that. And, when I'm just giving Himmel as one example, that as a kid, even to date, he's, although 17, developmentally at the age of 6, can paint. And, he's severely autistic, significant limitations. He can hardly communicate. He communicates using sign language with one word. If he can paint, imagine how many of our kids can paint or do something less similar. Mm-hmm. And that can dramatically impact their lives. Mm. So go for it.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Harish, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I think that what you're sharing is something that deserves to be heard far and wide. So I just appreciate you taking your time to hang out with me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Sonya. And through such an effort, you are basically becoming a catalyst in making things happen for many families. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you so much. I appreciate hearing that. It means a lot. So let me just wrap it up here by saying, as I usually do, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Appreciate it. And if you don't mind leaving us a 5-star review. Josh always reminds me to say that because if you leave a 5-star review, he tells me that it bumps us up a bit, so more people can become aware that we're here and we're doing this. So doing that makes a big difference for us, and we certainly appreciate it. Anyway, I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you next week. Love you.